Nothing wrong with
What
that.
am I doing?
Sitting down, getting ready for the podcast.
Thank you. This episode of Getting Tabled is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. Use code TABLE to get 5% off any order over $100, one use only. Thank you to our Patreons for supporting us. Please consider becoming a Patreon for $2 a month. Early access to all video content and listen to us record live.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts, Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you are all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 156 of Getting Tabled with your host, the Bruce.
Hello, folks. We're back at it again. Another lovely weekend in Australia. And
Is it getting hot there?
No, it's
Or no,
going.
it's getting cold there.
It's
cold.
going the other
It's
way.
getting cold.
Unlike most people in your country, you two actually understand that there are different places in the world. Congratulations on that. We also have the main man. I have no reason to demote him. He hasn't done anything wrong lately. So I guess it is actually Major Socks.
Hey, thank you very much, folks. Yeah, it's good to be back. And I think we failed to mention that we've been doing this for 6 years now. A couple weeks as of earlier this month.
It actually happened on the episode you and I recorded. I didn't realise till afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we failed to mention it. But yeah, 6 years. It's been a lot of fun. And then we have George, who's having problems with cats up in No Man's Land, Wyoming.
Trouble with cats is their natural state.
True.
Actually, the cat's been pretty good. It was grooming my corgis today. That was the pain in the butt.
Getting ready for the summer season then?
Yeah, kind of the spring blowout, so to speak. Help the birds make nests. Drop 2 pounds off of them instantaneously.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it's springtime. We've been doing this for it feels like
6 years.
longer than that. Like, lots of suffering. I mean, great times.
Enjoyment.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
We're going to start with some big stompy robots. We can just learn what it is to begin with. I'm trying to introduce that so people get an idea of what's in the episode. And I keep on forgetting to do it.
Like a
Review.
Like in today's episode.
Whatever. Anyways.
It doesn't matter. George was more interested in sabotaging my attempt to talk.
It's true. So no, we've actually seen these. This is for Dystopian Wars that we're talking about. The Imperium armored class units. We're just getting the smaller regiment boxes. That way, if you want to add on to these from your main starter sets, you can. So it's all the same stuff that we've seen in the starter sets. You get the armored armored regiment. You get the big tall behemoth robot. A couple of smaller walkers, some tanks, and then some tank knights and some spikes. So. Just some ways, like I said, ways to round out your army as you build them.
Is there anything in this box that hasn't been seen before? It's all existing stuff, right?
All existing stuff. It's just, taking this big, huge starter box and now taking it into a smaller, more manageable purchase to round out. Instead of having to buy a whole new starter set if you want to get the behemoth, for example.
Yeah.
You can now pay $60-$70 for it. Next up, we got the Imperium Infantry Regiment. Again, all stuff that we've seen already. So you get some heavy guns, some troop transports, and a variety of infantry and bikes stands as well. So,
yeah. I still like the look of these models. They are nice.
I do too. I'm so looking forward to getting these boxes. At least I'm going to be buying both starter boxes, at least the big one and the smaller starter set. At least when it comes out. But then the 3rd Regiment is the Imperial Armored Regiment. And again, a couple of Bane battle tanks, So this is pretty much the same thing as the Seeger. You just don't get the big behemoth.
Yep. Which, if it depends on how you want. I like the fact that they're doing options. I mean, the downside is, of course, it's adding more sprues, right? Sorry, not more. It's adding more. It's adding more options to the web store, which means it complicates things from a warehouse perspective. And it increases chances of them mispacking. But at the same time, they are... I mean, Wayland Games, it's the biggest retailer from tabletop standpoint in Europe, I believe. It's at least in the UK. So from their perspective, it's probably not that big of a deal. Like it's their bread and butter at this point.
It's their own.
It's not like they're a tabletop miniatures company that's trying to do this. It's a retail company that's adding this to their repertoire. So
yeah. And the last we have for the Armored Clash for the Imperium is their aircraft, the Messer Interceptor. So I am definitely looking forward to getting this on the table because it looks exactly like the aircraft on the SRS tokens. I do too.
Yeah, I do too. There's been quite a few nice flyers that they've done. I think this might be my favourite so far. I think.
I'm just going to flat out say it. Like all these other releases for this Armor Clash, like everything to me has just been kind of like, oh, really? That's the look they went with? Oh, okay. But the plane looks great.
Yeah, and for those of you that are looking... Oh, yeah.
That behemoth, it's just... It doesn't do it for me. Like, the little guys are all right, but the big one, it just... I don't know.
I don't mind it.
It's too, like, 50s sci-fi, take me to your leader kind of.
Yeah.
Which I think is what they're going for. Like, it's definitely retro sci-fi.
Yeah, no, I get that, but it's supposed to be more of a steampunkish thing, too, from what I understand. It's just, this is more, 50 sci-fi when, we were still trying to figure out what sci-fi was as a society, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks all right, but I'm not,
Whereas this looks like just like a World War II German fighter with a jet engine on the back of it, really. I mean, it just looks...
And for those of you that are looking at the screen and shouting at us that it doesn't look like a real plane and it would never work in the air, I don't care, it looks cool. It doesn't matter that it doesn't work. Yes, we know that it wouldn't work in real life. It's fine. It's fiction. Warhammer has a brick with wings. It's fine.
There's been reverse swept wings that have worked.
Yep.
This would work perfectly fine.
Yeah. I know you like the Japanese, the Empire one too, that we saw a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I think I like this one. I'm an Imperium player, so of course I'm going to like this one better. But all the aircraft that I've seen so far, I've enjoyed, but I really like this one. So.
I've always had a thing for forward swept wings. It just something about the look has always got me.
Yeah.
I can't even really explain why. It's just something about forward swept wings has always grabbed my attention.
It's a sense of aerodynamics that shouldn't be there but are, because it makes it look aggressive. Faster. The wings are going faster than the rest of the jet. Since I missed that episode where you guys talked about the Japanese one, does it come like on fire?
Yes.
Oh, that's so wrong.
I would love to see someone model that.
I'm sorry, the joke's there.
It's true. I have to agree. But that's what we got for Armored Clash on the Imperium side. But we have some other news from Warcradle Games Studios that just came out as of 2 days ago. We are getting a second Dystopian Wars edition, which I know Bruce is not happy about.
I'm going to come back to my thoughts, but it's not that I'm unhappy that they're getting a second edition. Like, the original edition of the game is 3 years old at this point. Sorry, not original.
Years, yeah.
Their version of the game is about 3 or 4 years old now. It's probably time for a refresh. I do have a problem with this, and we'll come back to it. It's probably really obvious to people that's been listening to it for a while.
Some of the problems that we have as players is in every game out there, Dystopian Wars is not the only one that has this issue. It's the variety of unique rules that every faction has.
Yep.
And this one has close to 250 spread out across the 8 factions. And so they're trying to streamline the gameplay. I mean,
which is needed.
Needed. And not just that, but a 2,000 point game, which is generally the point size that you play, it takes you good 3 hours to play a good game. And
that's it's desperately needed then.
That's a long time for tournament play, and they're trying to streamline the timing down to make tournaments more feasible.
So it sounds like the game, because I mean, I haven't played the game. I've always loved the look of it, and it's one of those things that's like, ooh, really tempting, but I don't have time for another game I won't play. But it sounds like it had a few of the same issues that the original Drop Fleet did. Like, it's a really good game in its core concept. It's just not streamlined enough, and it slows down too much.
I wouldn't even say that, because it was just the ground combat that wasn't streamlined enough. I mean, Dave and Hawk, when they first launched Drop Fleet, the uniqueness was very minimal between the factions. You know, and it wasn't even like, you know, craziness. Like, the Shaltari had particle lances and the gates. Scourge had Scald. PHR
had all our broadsides. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, George.
and the UCM were just really balanced and had a whole bunch of burn-throughs. Yeah. You know, and that was the uniqueness of the factions right there. That was about it. There wasn't too much more than that. If you've got like a dozen unique rules to each faction, that's where you start running into problems. That's the Games Workshop problem. That's the, you know, whoever else. If you've got too many unique faction rules, that's where the game bogs down. If you were to cut that down to 4 faction rules, I guarantee you cut an hour off your gameplay.
Yeah, and another thing too is there are so many different weapon varieties, and just the Imperium Navy as a whole. I had 3 or 4 main gun battery turrets that I could swap around based on points if I wanted to buy them. Yeah. But then trying to remember, okay, what does this gun turret shoot with? What's its special abilities? And so on. That's what dragged it on too, is all the various weapon variants that you had just within each faction alone. So they are saying in this article that all the miniatures that we have, and most games are like this, when a new edition comes out, they're all going to be cross-compatible, so we don't have to worry about having to buy a whole new army, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But during
which should always be the case.
Agreed.
Games Workshop.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that they're getting some of our feedback as players and as war hosts that something needs to happen. I do like the look of this new Korean Hwang class flyer that they have.
Yes.
So they are saying that they're going to be seeing a whole lot of new units coming out for factions, sub-factions of sub-nations of the factions that we haven't seen yet, like Spain, Korea. I can't remember where I saw those in the other articles, but there's Korea and Spain were one of the 2 that I remember. So
if Australia doesn't get mechanical emus, I'm going to be upset.
So they are saying Australia is going to be coming out, so we'll have some Australian units for the crown.
Can we just I started that as a joke, but Australian units for games are very rare, which is ironic because I mean, I'm not saying that we are like the most important country in the world or anything, but we are one of those countries that people have a fascination with, especially our animals. You would think it would be more common. Because, like, our weird creatures and stuff, right, it should be really easy to twist for sci-fi and steampunk and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say mechanical emus that fly around and drop bears.
There is a game that has mechanical emus, and we're going to look at this game later in our indie. But unfortunately, I can't find the mechanical emus on the website. I know they exist because Owen shared them in our Discord like 2 weeks ago and spoke about it in their interview. But I can't find them on the website anywhere. I'm so upset.
But another thing that's not going to change is the dice, all the action dice that we use, all the damage dice to be used, all the maneuvering tools. That's not going to change as well. So it's just the core mechanics of the game that they're changing, really. Everything else is going to be cross-compatible, which is going to be very nice. So
Socks hinted at the fact that I have an issue with this. And it's not with this entirely. And in fact, Socks doesn't realise this, but while he was talking about the fact that I had a problem, he said something that I think actually answers my question. Because I have an issue with this. Like, this game is 4 years old. Yes, it's time that this gets a refresh and all of that. That's fine. But I have a problem, and it's a problem that I've mentioned a few times at this point. While Wayland Games need to start focusing on everything they're doing and not hyper-focusing on one thing at a time. Wild West Exodus hasn't had a release for over 2 years. I could be slightly off on that, but it feels like it's been over 2 years at this point. Wild West Exodus hasn't had releases for a long time. I'm not saying that they need to give it the same level of releases to Wild West Exodus as they're giving to everything else. Like, the game is very well fleshed out at this point, and that's probably their large reason why. But there are some really old sculpts in that game that they could revisit. There's no reason they wouldn't sell. I mean, as much as, yes, people will moan about it, but if you make them look good, people will buy them. There is a giant Wild West Exodus community. However, Socks said something that hadn't even really occurred to me until he said it, which is Dystopian Wars needs this because it needs to be streamlined and stuff, and that already happened with Wild West Exodus. Their rules are fine, but the game feels abandoned at this point because they're not making any effort to actually continue releases for it. They keep on telling us that things are going to happen, but I'm now hearing that there's another game that's coming. And there's still not even a hint of stuff coming for Wild West.
And I'll touch on this because you mentioned it at the beginning of this topic. You know, they're the UK's, if not that part of the world's largest game retailer, also a manufacturer. You know, businesses are in business to make money, and they're probably looking at this too. Of this is what's selling, what's making money. We should probably focus more on this and get this out the door to keep this client base happy and fulfilled, so they continue to buy. You know, let's say, you know, a year and a half down the road, Dystopian Wars and new editions out, you know, the sales have tapered off because everyone already has the models and it's just the new rule set. You could very well see that, okay, let's revisit Wild West, you know, let's revisit this now that all this is stabilized out and is more consistent instead of ramped up.
Yeah,
it's also
one thing I will add too.
Yep.
Is now that Armored Clash is coming out, they could easily go back to Wild West Exodus and bring back some of the models that they're bringing into Armored Clash, or that they've already have in Wild West Exodus, instead revamp the models. Because the same models that you're seeing in Wild West Exodus are the same army units that you're seeing in Armored Clash. Yeah. And they could do the same thing. So they could bring some of the new stuff from Armored Clash into Exodus. Yeah, they should.
They'd still need to work because
compatible with it.
Changing scale, like you do have to do, like we saw this in Drop Squad Commander. I had a complete blank there for a second. I haven't actually used that word for a long time. In Strike Team, like we saw, like they scaled the stuff up, and the fact that they look as good as they do says more about Dave's original sculpts than it does about scaling, because for most companies, if you did that, you would actually see bigger problems. And I'm not saying that their sculptors aren't good. Like, we know that Wayland Games' sculptors are very good. But generally, when you make something bigger, you need to fill in the details. So they would still have to do a lot of work. It wouldn't be as much work as it would be to create something from scratch, I don't imagine. But I could be wrong on that.
So it'll be interesting. They're saying this rulebook will be out later this year, along with some of the new units. So looking forward to it.
And I think this is the first game where James Hewitt is the James M. Hewitt is the lead designer. I know he went to them and got employed by them for a little while. For those that don't know, James M. Hewitt has created a lot of very good games. He was working for Mantic Games for quite some time. He did actually do some work in Games Workshop as well. Not that he'll ever get credit for that. He worked on like the popular version of Blood Bowl at this point, for example. So, I mean, he's not somebody that everybody knows because he's not one of the creators of 40K, but like that's a big name. And people should be excited that he is leading it because he is very good at what he does.
Yeah.
Sky Empire.
Yeah.
Who found this? Because I did.
It was me. It was me. So I found this just on my Facebook feed, and it kind of reminded me a little bit about like Twilight Imperium, but you're in the way that the game is set up, the game board itself, and the way some of the gameplay is played. But yeah, you've got your little faction that you're trying to protect your little planet from being invaded by these. I can't remember what they're called.
I'm sorry, Socks. I'm going to have to interrupt. I've just found the Doppler Council. Nothing else matters. We have sci-fi frogs. This is amazing.
Yes. So yeah, you're this little sci-fi doppelfrog factions, sub-factions within the population from the planet, and you're trying to go around and collect gems across the map as you build stuff or research stuff, or your own little faction has their own little goal to collect a gem with. But you can attack other people's airships. You can attack the little alien invaders stuff to earn the goals. And I just thought this was a cool little new concept of a game that's coming out. So building the empire of airships.
And who doesn't love airships? Like it's one of his. Like we've touched on this before when we were talking about Dystopian Wars. Like there was a point in history where the Zeppelin was going to be the future of air, of the air, and of course there's a giant incident that ruined it for everybody. And like to be fair, what we have now works better than Zeppelins do anyway. But they just look cool. I don't care if they're not as effective. They look cool.
And if you stay on top of like technology and stuff like that, Bruce, they are making a comeback.
Are they?
They are. Yeah, they're actually trying to use them for air cargo options.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It takes less energy to propel the Zeppelin across the sky than it does a plane to maintain the lift and everything because you're using a gas to. And with modern technology and safety protocols, they've decided like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and continue to try to use hydrogen. And they've just got way more protocols and safety and, stuff like that. And, yeah, they're even talking about the concept of, like a Carnival cruise ship, but turn it into a big Zeppelin and then you can, like, cruise ship through the sky from country to country.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, that was the original concept, right? Which is that
it was.
It made it was a very cheap way of doing large air transport.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to see that being revisited. I wasn't aware of that. Looking at this page, like we have a whole heap of sculpts for the game itself, like the airships and stuff, right? And then, at least glancing at this, I haven't read this in full detail, obviously, but the sculpts for the characters just seem to exist for a collecting point of view. I don't believe there's any part of them in the game.
There is. So in the 5-minute YouTube video that kind of explains the game, within the game itself, you can use your little characters to activate various actions that you are able to play later on in the game round.
Oh, so they're kind of like part of your player board type thing.
They are.
Okay.
They are. So you don't just have the airships that are flying around to the various board pieces, but you also have stuff in the central part of the game off the main board that you're using your little character pieces for as well. So it's not just a collector for the little frogs.
It does kind of feel like they've done that because then they have a reason to sell them because realistically that could be a token. Yeah. But this means that they can charge more money for it. I mean, I'm being a cynic here Because the first thing I said is how cool these minis are. I would really love to have these minis. But from a board game perspective, it just... Like, that's the sort of thing that it feels like if you were releasing this outside of crowdfunding, you wouldn't do this. Because you're just going to... it just doesn't make any sense.
Incur costs. Yep. So, I don't know. It was a cool find that I found. I thought it was a cool concept for a game of
100%.
airships. As we discussed about how them using them in the past. So
it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, especially yes, I have to agree.
Moving on, Strike from the Skies. This is our only Warhammer story today. It's okay, Socks. You can fall asleep now.
Good. All right. Wake me up.
No, this is the most exciting news that anybody is ever going to talk about. We're getting a new drop pod. Yep, that's the story. Like, drop pods are questionably what should be the most boring thing in the game, but there's always been something really cool about the drop pod design. I don't know if there's really a need to have updated this, other than they want to do it so that they can Primaris it and outlaw the old one.
They added tactical rocks to it for no reason.
I was waiting for you to say that.
They had to make the
which means
just for the model.
What? No.
I'm hoping that they are optional add-ons, because part of the thing that people love about the drop pod is that you can have it either up or down, and I don't want rocks on it when it's up.
This is the dumbest thing ever.
I'm not sure I'd entirely agree with the dumbest thing ever.
Okay. What is the purpose of a tactical rock on a miniature?
There is no purpose. It's to look cool.
So now, as you just mentioned a half second earlier, you have a drop pod. It's closed or it's open, right? Mm-hmm. There's two poses for it. How are you going to have this closed with tactical rocks attached to it? Games Workshop, stop giving us tactical rocks.
I don't have a problem with tactical rocks if there's a reason for it. Like a character needs something to stand on, and rocks are something that fits kind of anywhere. From that perspective, I understand the hate for it, but I don't have a problem with it from that perspective. That argument does not work here. Because you can't pose a drop pod.
Army, and I am not using rocks anywhere in the basing of my army. What am I supposed to do with this?
My point, the part that I agreed with you that you ignored, is that argument doesn't work here. You can't pose a drop pod. It's just there because they want it to be there.
If you are doing a terrain board for a painting competition, the drop pod is part of it. The basing is part of it. Those tactical rocks, if they don't fit in, you've got to figure some BS out so that it falls in the scheme for your basing.
Mm-hmm. What we don't know at this point is whether these are optional or not. I'm hoping that they are. If they're not, because this doesn't look like it's modular. It looks like it's solid. My hope is that drop pod and the ground piece are two separate pieces. It might be, it might not be. The article doesn't really show enough for us to see it. They're using an argument here that it's about the footprint and stuff, which just feels like they're trying to find an excuse for it. My point about the whole it's not the most stupid thing I've ever seen is, look, I'm sorry. Games Workshop have made some really dumb decisions. There's no way this is even in the top 10. Let's cancel half of an army so that you can't use them anymore. I'm sorry, that tops this.
But that's old news.
Yeah. Looking at the paragraph that's right below the first picture.
Yep.
Footprints are now the footprints are now fastened firmly in their open position. You can't even close them.
Okay. Yep.
All right, that's it. Dumbest thing ever.
Yep. No. I'll back off on the argument then. Even if a lot of it was devil's advocate. But no, I'll back off. No, that's just... It's...
It does say the impact debris under the doors is modular and can be added to suit your taste. So
Okay.
you can add the rocks or not add the rocks.
Okay, that's better.
But the doors stay open.
Okay, I'll give them credit for the fact that the rocks are optional. But, I'm sorry, the fun of the drop pod is the fact that it can be up and down.
So, yeah, I'm going to rewind a few years, when you could actually deploy troops with drop pods. And you had your little scatter dice and everything. So it was all a gamble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, one game, dude was trying to drop it, like, right in the corner. And he did. And he drifted right to the edge. So that 3 of the doors could not open. 2 doors could open and his troops could still deploy out. But 3 doors could not. In this situation and setting, with the doors permanently stuck open, it would have been off the table and the unit lost.
Yeah.
Which
Another thing is storing this thing. It's not going to be easy to store this thing with the fins down.
Oh, that's going to be a nightmare with this thing.
Yeah, because even a lot of guys, when they play it with it just open all the time, they still close it up and like rubber band it or stick it in foam so it doesn't take up as much space. Yeah.
I used to be that guy. I was that guy. So, look, it's also probably worth noting, nobody was really excited about this that I saw. Like, it's we're getting into your drop pod. Nobody really seemed to be shouting about this. I mean, I made a joke about it being the most exciting thing ever, which I'm hoping nobody took seriously. It's just a drop pod. I mean, the drop pod is quite old at this point, and I'm sure somebody out there is making an argument that, yeah, it's about time. But I'm not that person. This is a sculpt that didn't need to be touched.
No, absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with the drop pod, just like there's been nothing wrong with the Rhino, like there's been nothing wrong with...
This exists. This exists because people moan that there's no use for drop pods in the game anymore, and they are never going to change that unless there's a new drop pod to add to the game.
Okay, but in this text here, they said they removed the bolter, which was an obvious hazard to the occupants. Okay, so now you've removed weapons from it. So now what is it?
Yeah.
Like, get bent, Games Workshop. Jeez.
Yeah, look, it is what it is, I suppose. Also, look, there's almost nothing that's really significantly changed on this. It almost looks like it's the same sculpt. They just seem to have embiggened it and added some rocks. Like, those wings look nigh on identical.
Yeah, and then make it so the doors can't close.
Yeah.
Like...
I mean, I don't like the fact that you can't close the doors. I will at least say that I understand why they've made the decision. I don't like that decision, but I understand why they've made it. But if you're going to release a new product, why wouldn't you at least update or make it feel like you've updated it a bit?
Yeah. What about the people who, just like, I keep my drop pods closed so I don't have to waste the time painting the inside?
Hi.
Now you have to paint the inside, Bruce.
No, I don't. I don't play Space Marines or Warhammer 40k for that matter.
Okay, but if you did, you'd have to paint the inside now.
I would have to paint the inside now. Moving on.
I think that's the most I've talked about a Games Workshop article in a long time.
Well, and ironically, it's a lot of conversation about something quite dull, really.
Yes.
Speaking of things that are dull, that's not what this is.
One could argue that's the most you've talked about Games Workshop in one episode. You've talked about more than the 6 years combined.
Probably true.
I don't know if that would be true, honestly. We had a lot to say about the Slaaneshi guy.
That's true. Socks actually did weigh in a lot on the Slaanesh.
George has very clearly just seen the Scion of War, which is... I'm sorry, this thing is gorgeous. This is for the Wadroon, which is like the orcs that ride dinosaur guys. These are the ones that I was buying at one point. This is one of their Founders Edition Not Founders Edition. It's one of the Artisan series models. So it is fancier than the one that will receive like regular release. Like we will get a plastic version of this at some point that will be different. But this is really pretty.
The Founders exclusive Leo Nectaros for the City States.
Where are you seeing that? I don't even have that linked.
It comes up on the first item on every single link on the run sheet, Bruce.
I don't know why that link isn't working for you. It should be.
Well, I clicked on it again the second time, and it took me to the Scion of War. It's still not as glorious as the Lion Dude, but it's still glorious.
Is mechanical.
So it's big, it's fancy, it's got all of the fans that just seem to be there to show off. Like it's a big hulking monster that's saying, "Look how fabulous I am."
So, do you know what this miniature screams at me? Take the movie Gladiator. Take the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe.
Yep. Okay, now, I know where you're going with this.
Now add like hardcore fantasy parts to it, to where like you actually have minotaurs and stuff like that running around. This shows up in the Coliseum to fight Russell Crowe. That's exactly what I see.
And it's the thing that walks in and makes a big show about how big and strong it is and how it's going to embarrass and destroy him really easily, and then gets killed in 5 seconds.
It's the Hulk from Hulk Ragnarok.
It's the giant stone creature from Thor 2. Where it walks in and it goes, "Rah!" And then he just hits it with the hammer and it shatters. Up next, we have the Chosen of War, that I'm guessing you guys will have to click on again because of weird reasons.
I got it. I found it.
The Chosen of War.
Yeah. So this is the next level down, essentially. And again, like big, chunky, monstrous guys with vicious-looking hammers. Kind of nice to see. It's nice to see that the Wudrun, like the other gods, are being fleshed out a little bit. I quite like these. Not as much as I like the Scion, but I do like it. And the last thing I wanted to look at is actually my favourite, which is the Scion of Death. This is very sly and nimble, although I have to say the hair, which is really odd, almost looks like she's wearing a giant spider on her face, which is not what it is. It's giant dreadlocks. I think they're trying to go for a predator vibe here. I'm not entirely sure it works. I don't know. It looks like she's wearing a monster on her head. But I don't know, she has like a ninja feel to her. It's like an orc ninja. I don't know. I like it. I don't know what you guys think.
I'm getting the ninja vibe, but also I'm getting kind of like a sorceress vibe too. A ninja sorceress. She's kind of got that. She's using the magic to be able to.
I could see that. I think the idea of the robe is that that's like she's just launched up and the dress is kind of still.
Yeah.
That's the vibe right. I get. But you could you could say that she's hovering up there if you wanted to. I don't know if that fits with the lore. Probably not. So the Wudrun have a couple of gods that they worship. And like there were some of when they escaped, some of them got killed, and apparently they're maybe not as dead as we thought they were. But they have this mechanic in the game of chanting. And like each time you do something, you're adding it to the chant, and depending on how you do the chant, you get different benefits and stuff from it. It's very unique. So it's good to see that they are fleshing out the other gods, because it just adds to the mechanics of the army.
So Bruce, I added the link that for some reason was just popping up for myself and Socks. So I put it on the run sheet, so I don't know if you can pop it up, because I kind of want to talk about this, because this is the most badass model I've ever seen. Period.
Oh, the City States one, yes.
Riding the mechanical lion?
Yeah.
Like, I am sorry, like, where has this been? This is glorious beyond glory.
Yeah. Sometimes there's an expensive model that just, I am sorry, makes a lot of sense why it's an expensive model. I mean, the Artisan series... Oh, the Artisan
That's
series.
not expensive.
The Artisan series and the Founders exclusives are like art pieces, and so it's not a 40 euro model. It's a €100 model, and it makes sense. I'm not being critical here. It's
but I mean, for what that looks like, and you tell that's $100. Okay, and here's 100. Like,
yep.
There's some models and minis where, even with the substantial price attached to them, like the way they look, the detail on them, it's just like, I don't care. I have to have that. And this is one of those where it's just, I've been in this hobby for a long time, and I have not seen anything like this ever.
Yeah, it is
What do you think
really,
of the Tactical
really
Rock?
cool.
Because I think it looks cool. I think the tactical terrain looks
You
great
shut
on
your
this
mouth, Socks.
model.
You shut your mouth, Socks.
This is from The Lion King. It is the lion standing on the edge, holding up the monkey holding up the baby. I can't think what that piece of landscape was called. Sorry?
Pride Rock.
Pride Rock, thank you. It's standing on Pride Rock. And I'm sorry, if you have a giant hero lion model, that is how you should have the Tactica Rock be.
Yes.
There is no other acceptable reason.
I cannot disagree with that. But like the Greek appearance of the rider and like the influence of the Greekness in that mechanical lion, like on a scale of like doing this 1 to 100, right? Not 1 to 10, 1 to 100.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give this a 99, just because there's some way somehow someone's gonna make it look better.
Oh yeah, like it's like, and the paint job on this already looks great.
Oh, it's so phenomenal.
Yeah.
This
is also a limited edition. This isn't a limited edition of, hey, you can only buy this at certain times. There's only 995 of these ever being made. And Parabellum actually stick to that, unlike most companies.
I like the way the rider's holding his javelin, too. Is just about ready to get that into a charging pose and just... Yeah.
Yep.
Oh God. Yeah, no, like, but yeah, so all the links for all the other stuff, Bruce. I clicked on it and it was like all the pre-order stuff with that guy is like the top left,
top left.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was looking at when you were talking about the. Yeah.
Yeah. Coming up next, we have a new game coming from Firelock Games.
Firelock.
So this is the guys that did Blood and Plunder and Port Royal, like the pirate games. They're very into their historical stuff. They are doing an expansion for their War Stories specific role-playing game. War Stories role-playing game. It's a World War II RPG. And they're doing it based on, let's be fair, a very large part of World War II that a huge part of the world never speaks about, because they don't live in our side of the world, and therefore it doesn't matter. Like, Europe essentially completely ignores the Pacific. They forget that it ever happened, because they're not involved in that war. That they're dealing with Germany and everything over there. Whereas our two, we
US.
pretty much fought in the Pacific, because...
Well,
newsflash, World War II finished after you think it did.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot about the Pacific Theater because that's the part of the battle that my cult was mainly involved in, and like the hero with all the plot armor.
Yeah, the Marine Corps wasn't involved in the European theater as much as it was in the Pacific Theater. So George is absolutely right. The Marine heritage all comes from this theater of the war. But it is cool to see this coming out.
Yeah. So there's a video on the page that you can look at. It's about 2 hours long that talks about everything pretty much.
Oh, holy smokes, really?
Yeah. It's. I just kind of clicked on it, not realizing how big it was. Excuse me.
So
it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Like, role-playing World War II is interesting. Like, that's... I mean, it's a point... Like, people play World War II on the tabletop quite frequently, even people that's not necessarily into historical games. role-playing a real-world scenario is a very interesting thought process.
Yeah, for sure. And primarily from the standpoint of too is just, sure, there's the Allies and the Axis, no one really cares about though. It was all about the Nazis and stuff. Like that was, everyone's focus. So for them to take the time to, albeit, I would say a significantly smaller part of the war, since it was just essentially the Japanese and Americans fighting that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you click on the back this Kickstarter now, it will actually open up the Kickstarter page for it, which at this stage is well and truly funded. It's kind of like 200% of its goal at this point. You get a look at the actual, like the main book looks really nice. And then you start looking at the STLs that they're doing for the characters themselves, which, like US Marine with flag, CB. I don't know what CB is. That's
Navy engineer.
okay.
Yeah, Navy construction worker. They could build anything out of anything in 5 minutes.
Okay. Engineer is a little bit more straightforward. We've got a partisan in both Europe and the Pacific, and then we've got correspondents that we haven't unlocked yet. But they're doing them as STLs, not as hard plastic or anything. Like I said, this is going to be very interesting.
I wonder if they're going to include one of the best stories.
Hmm.
There was on the fight for Okinawa. There was a mansion that was in the middle of the island that was a strategic foothold for both sides, and so U.S. Marines took the mansion, but the radio got destroyed. So Navy ships are still bombarding with artillery. The Japanese know that they've lost it, so they're bombarding with artillery.
Yep.
So the platoon that took the mansion is sitting there getting shot at by both sides. And so the lieutenant is running around all of his men trying to find a personal flag so they can hoist the flag on the mansion to show that they've taken it so the Navy stops shooting him. The only flag he could find was Robert E. Lee's battle flag.
Interesting, okay. One of my favourite Pacific stories is a character... Well, I say a character. It's a gentleman by the name of Teddy Sheehan that's actually from the state that I was born in. He was... I don't remember what his rank was, but he was fairly low. But they got shot down by the Japanese. Wait, was it? Yeah, Japanese. And he defied orders and stayed on the ship, strapped himself to the gun to take out the ships so that they couldn't take out his friends. He is the single reason why the casualty rates on that ship going down was so low. He only got his honours a couple of years ago. Because technically he defied orders and therefore... family and people in the air had been fighting for decades for this to finally happen, and it finally did. It's a really cool story.
I just think it's a great story because, of all the flags to fly to signify we've taken this, stop shooting at us, it was a flag of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on.
Really cool, though. Moving on.
Yeah. Space Kits. This is a game that's being designed by Mike Hutchinson. That is the guy that did Gaslands, as well as A Billion Suns.
Gaslands, is that the RPG where you use Matchbox cars?
Yes. It's not an RPG, but yes. And this is basically a game where you are drunk orcs causing problems in the streets. So you've had a big night on the town, and then your group of friends has come across somebody else that you don't like, and you're deciding to have a punch-up before the police arrive. That is what this game is. It's a really silly idea in the best way. It's rated 17, and it's J for jank. So, you got some fairly simple mechanics, but it's also dexterity-based, not just dice. So, for example, with your movement dice... They use I don't know if it's always 3, but you're rolling 3 dice. And the numbers that come up on them is what you move, but you have to move towards the dice in whatever order you want to try to end up where you want to be. And then every time you have an action, you have to build a tower of dice beside your miniature that has to move with them. And if the tower falls over, then your person's got too drunk and fallen over, basically. It's really, really silly. It's on a 2 foot by 2 foot square. It kind of feels like it's the right kind of silly. I mean, drunk orcs just makes sense.
The first thing that, like, just makes me giggle, so the heading that says the game, the picture right below it, the ruler.
Yeah.
That ruler is ridiculous.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, right. Yes.
Like,
and it looks like a wooden ruler.
Yeah, but they've literally marked it off because, like, it's not the right numbers and put it on the right numbers. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's actually showing 8 through 12 in the actual ruler, but it's broken off by 1, 2, 3, 4.
I didn't even notice that. That is glorious.
With
That is amazing.
Centimeters on the other side of the ruler.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing here.
Sawed a chunk off of it and made their own.
Yep. It's really silly. It's the right kind of really silly. It's not an expensive Kickstarter. I would probably argue that, like, especially for people in the US, I'd be wanting to be very careful with Kickstarters right now. I would be... This is... because he's released a few things as part of Osprey. This is the first thing that he's done by himself with his own production. So, I'm not saying that is a bad thing. He's been in the industry long enough that he knows what he's doing. But there's definitely... Oh, by the way, Officer Crunk is awesome. The miniatures that you're seeing in the Kickstarter are done by Cromlech.
Okay.
So that's if they're looking familiar, that's why. But
well, so right there. So that's also says, like, U.S. backers, go ahead and back it, because right now Cromlech makes all their stuff in house, right?
Cromlech's based in Europe, though.
That's not the problem.
Hmm.
China's the problem.
China's the problem.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
So if Cromlech's doing the miniatures, like, I would still be okay with backing that, because the issue that's not near the issue is what we're going to talk about later on. And give me everything which looks like the hardcover book, and, like, essentially everything that's been made for the game. $265. Like, that's not too terribly bad. $160 for the 2-player starter set.
Yeah.
That's almost in that sweet spot. It's just a little, but given the size and, the fact that where it's being made and who's making it, that makes sense. So,
given the size, given the size of the team and everything behind, like, it makes sense. Like, this is not some big company that's trying to do things at a budget.
Right.
Like, this is somebody that's genuinely building something with a passion. So, but let's kind of talk about. It's kind of time to talk about the elephant in the room, unfortunately, which is not this one. Cmon. All right. First and foremost, I'm going to say this right up front. I really like this news article. And I'm saying that up front because it's a Cmon article, and I generally tend to be quite critical of them. There's another story that's been swirling the drain for the last couple of weeks I'm going to touch on near the end that we don't have a link for because they're trying to blame Cmon for certain things that, personally, I think they're just trying to... It's a company like Mythic that's trying to blame somebody else for their problems, is how it reads to me. So, the story here is that Cmon are essentially putting a pause on all of their crowdfunding for the near future until the tariff situation has been dealt with. Basically, until the landscape is going to be safer, they are focusing their efforts on getting out the games that are being in progress right now. This does mean that there's going to be a large part of their workforce that's probably going to be let go. Well, no, probably. They have said that that's going to be let go. Because they can't pay people to make games if they're not making new games at this point. And some people may not like to hear this, but the United States is arguably the biggest market as far as board games is considered in the world, from a country level at least anyway.
Yeah, if you look at it from a country level, we have approximately 330 million people. We have one of the highest, average income per household in the world.
Yeah.
That gives us the disposable income. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that buy expensive board games in this country. When you compare that to Great Britain, Great Britain can't even come close because they've only got 60 million people.
Yeah.
But again, they're still a huge market because they have their first world. So, I mean, it totally makes sense. Company of Heroes, they said it was going to be 900,000.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next... we'll talk about that in the next article. But, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, it's not in this article, and I read it somewhere else, and I thought I put it in our host chat. But
you're probably referring to the article I'm going to talk about.
Cmon is also now looking for manufacturing solutions outside of China.
Yeah. I'm expecting, this is just me spitballing, but I'm expecting that Vietnam, Korea, that area of the world is about to get a lot of business. Vietnam is where Hasbro makes all of their action figures and have been for quite some time. So they've kind of gotten quite lucky there. But that area of the world is also quite cheap to produce things. I would be very surprised if that's not the area. It's either going to be there or it's going to be India, right? Because as much as, yes, I know that the whole point of this is that they want manufacturing to happen in the United States, it's not happening in this play space. This play space can't afford to be made in the United States. It's too expensive.
So going back to, the whole start of a lot of the stuff where, a lot of people making decisions are, starting to backtrack. They wanted the production of iPhones to be moved back to the United States. Mm-hmm. An iPhone is running $1,300.
Yeah.
Currently for retail. You take it to the account of you're going to pay someone here in America, which means you have to, provide them with their health insurance and all the other stuff that, we've become used to in this country. That's going to push the retail price of one of those phones up to $3,500.
Yeah.
So,
that is keeping the same margin from memory as well.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And yes, I have opinions on those margins, and they're not positive ones.
Yeah. So, going back here to, and I've got this up on a different browser, and I've been staring at it because, I have a handful, and I mean a handful. I think 6 projects. Mordred, the most recent one it's going to be most recently shipping, is currently in mass production. Yep. Next step is packaging and then shipping Q3 of 2025.
Yep.
They have not announced anything of what they're going to do to get that to my door, except they're going to do what they can to get to my door. Right now, I still have full confidence in Cmon because unlike a lot of the other manufacturers out there, they have yet to not deliver.
Yep.
Which is, in the crowdfunding world, that is they are the pinnacle of perfection.
Whether the game turns out to be good or not is irrelevant. They have always delivered. And I'm saying this out loud because there are people that will correct you on that about, but the game's going to be shit. The game's going to be bad. Sorry, I just saw.
No, whatever.
But it's completely irrelevant to this story. Also, every company releases a game that doesn't work sometimes. That's actually not much.
That's how it works. Yeah. Yep. So there's that one. Then we got the other one I'm looking at, Degenesis. They haven't even started molding that one yet. So, Cthulhu, my favorite one, because there's already so much background history on that. Working on the new molds, obviously, the proofing of the files is already done because that's all a template already. So, quite literally, once the molding's done, they're ready to start manufacturing.
Yep.
Then there's a couple other, how does this fall into crowdfunding? I've got some that are they're just pre-orders. Mm-hmm. It's not a crowdfunding, it's a pre-order. So how's that going to be affected? do I just get that because I've already paid for it because this happened before, or is it still going to get treated? Like, there's...
My understanding, and like, nobody really knows, even the people that's implementing the laws. My understanding is that the charge happens when it's imported. So, in theory, yes, you have to pay it. But by the time it delivers, hopefully this has gone away, maybe?
But on the other hand, too, though, I've already paid this amount for... They said this is a pre-order, I will get this product as it is.
Yeah, but they don't have a choice in the matter. It's not their call.
Yeah, I know. It's such a... but related to that now, and this is not part of this article, but this is another one I shared. A large retailer, not miniature market large, but a large online retailer, Boardlandia, is closing up shop because of this.
Yeah, I did read that, actually, yeah. Because pretty much, like... I'm sorry, but... there are some games, and it's a very, very tiny amount of games that are made in the United States.
Well, not even just the United States. Canada, anywhere in Europe, Great Britain. Like, there's so much, and it's just that's what China has done is they've turned themselves into the world's manufacturer.
Yeah, but like. The situation, I mean, it's not a great situation. That's why we avoided talking about it, generally speaking. There's another company that's out there. And I'm going to look this up while you're talking about yours. Because the Boardlandia was one of the large ones, right?
Yeah. Whenever, like, someone's just like, I'm looking for this board game, we'll go check out Boardlandia because they're usually, a 10 to 20% mark off of all the other retailers out there, and they usually have, 2 to 4 day shipping. And the other thing I really liked it was actually, they were a fairly small operation. Like, they moved a lot, but it was, like, all in-house. It was essentially, like, family-owned with, like, 20 employees. So, and I want to say, like, Season 2 of Cthulhu Death May Die, I picked it up off of Amazon for I want to say $60 before I really truly knew how good the game was. And when I was looking at their stuff, because someone was asking about the game, they had that for $50. Which, in the game space world, $10 is a significant amount of money for the same product from two different places. And when I read that, I couldn't believe that because. The only other retailer online that I really knew that was bigger than them, obviously, is Miniature Market.
Miniature Market.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't be saying that they're any safer.
They're only safer because of I think they got purchased by Asmodee, and that's the only reason why.
I just want I was almost gonna. Because as much as we've been trying to avoid the subject, I was tempted to talk around it in a games talk. But I just want to say very quickly, if you want this industry to continue going, you need to start supporting your friendly local gaming stores, and you need to start doing it now, because if you don't, all of them are going to be closed before the end of the year. And I mean all of them. I'm specifically talking to the Americans here.
Oh, yeah.
Because, make no mistake, this is where... and I'm talking to the Magic crowd too. All of that's going to be a problem if you don't support them. I can't find the original article that I want to quote here. But basically, there is a board game company that did an update on their Kickstarter recently. I'm pretty sure you shared it with us at some point, George. It got shared in one of my local chats as well. And basically, they have turned around and said... Let me just bring myself up.
I think it was in our group chat, and I think it was Michelle that shared it.
Okay, that might make it easier for me to find it then. Basically, what they've done is, they've had a history of kind of not delivering everything that they've promised, and they say that they made a deal with Cmon to deliver a large batch of their games to the Asian market for them. And Cmon had not paid them for it yet,
The Darkest Hour, Merchant's Cove, Mastercraft. Michelle shared that.
Thank you.
Yep.
But yeah, basically what they're doing is that they're blaming Cmon because Cmon never paid them because, they're a company that haven't produced reliably, and Cmon are not going to risk their funds until they know that it's being produced. It's only their word that we have on this. We have no real evidence that Cmon are actually involved at all. But even if they are, because this news story is actually a few weeks old at this point, it started resurfacing again after Cmon's announcement that, hey, we're putting a pause on everything. As this company is like, hey, see, we told you. But even their own version of the story doesn't really make them look any better because it's very clear, it screams the same story that we had with Secret Weapon of, it's all their fault, don't look at me, it's all their fault. Yeah. And yeah, I'm saying that out loud, come on, have a go, because you know that you're lying.
So the other thing... I'm going to briefly mention this too before we move on to the next story that Socks.
Before you do, I'm talking about Secret Weapon with that comment, not this, because I don't know who's at fault in this. It just doesn't make them look good.
Yeah, the one of the other big companies in the crowdfunding world, Awaken Realms.
Yep.
Yeah. Produced Nemesis, Lords of. Ragnarok, Grail, a bunch of stuff, right? They're a big, heavy-hitting company, too.
Yeah.
They're still crowdfunding. Now, they've always been... they move very quickly to GameFound. They're a Polish company. GameFound is based out of Poland, so that makes complete sense. They are still crowdfunding.
Yeah.
And they have a version 2 of a game that they're pushing right now on GameFound. The thing that I found interesting is there was nothing about U.S. fulfillment in that campaign. I
have a theory here, and I don't know if my theory is a solid one or not, but my theory on that is that they're just saying, look, if we don't get US backers, then we don't get US backers. I have a feeling that that's just the direction that they're going to go, because the problem is that it doesn't really matter what they say because they don't get a choice in the matter, and realistically, nobody knows what's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if they're able to still, I thought it was the interesting take of
I do think that they should have said something.
Yeah, but we have Cmon, we have Awaken Realms, two of the big board game companies out there. I mean, there's other big ones too. But for one of them to say we're stopping crowdfunding for now till we can get everything sorted out, and another one's like, we're just going to keep going.
They haven't even said anything yet. I am imagining that they will eventually, because from what you were saying in our group chat, there's a lot of people that was asking questions, which is going to force them to have to answer those questions anyway. Because if you ignore it, that's only going to mean people will start pulling their pledges. In theory.
Well, if I can't back the game because, what am I going to be paying for shipping? I can't back it right now because I don't know what I'm actually going to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how this all goes out. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I have opinions on what's going to end up happening. The media doesn't like it and are going to continue to spew doom and gloom because it's what makes money.
That's what the media does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Back things if you're comfortable with them. If you're not comfortable with them, don't back things. I would be suggesting that people are very careful with their money right now. And hey, maybe put some of it into your savings. It's probably not a bad idea anyway. Yeah. Support your local game stores. Otherwise, you won't have them. And I mean this. I'm not being doom and gloom. Your local gaming stores were already struggling. It's already an area that has probably more closures in any other industry. You need to be supporting them now because if you don't, that entire sector of your world is going to fall over. It's all well and good to say that I'm a fan of miniature games. If you have nowhere to buy them locally or play them locally, some of us have tables that we can play on. A lot of people don't. Like if you live in a country, yeah, but what about the people that live in tiny little apartments and stuff?
Or in England, where that they have a local club that they usually meet at.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Most people don't have space in their homes to, like I do. I have the luxury of having.
There's a good reason why a majority of my stuff is co-op, so I can solo play it. Like, because where I live, it's such a difficult environment in the first place.
Yeah.
Regardless what's happening. So,
as you guys know, I've been a huge supporter of Bad Crow Games, Company Heroes in particular. They were literally ready to ship the entire Kickstarter pledge for the second edition, and then the economic crisis that we're in hit. I got a message updating on the 15th of April stating that Latin America, they were looking for a hub to ship all the product to, versus having to come to the U.S. Canada, they had already found a place for all their pledges to go to. The rest of the world, Europe, Asia, Oceania, they were looking into options and would provide updates next week. But for those of us here in the U.S., they gave us the option to pay extra costs based off of our pledges to expedite all of our pledges via air freight. So I decided to do that myself, weighed the options, knowing that they had a deadline of May 2nd to try and get the product to the U.S., or I'd possibly incur additional costs, or have my orders canceled. Lo and behold, I got my stuff yesterday. I was very shocked at how fast it showed up because it got loaded on the plane Wednesday afternoon for me, and less than 48 hours I had my boxes.
To be fair, expedited shipping is expensive for a reason.
It is. So yeah, my cost for my pledge was $110 roughly that I had to pay extra.
You had a fairly large pledge too, though.
I had a huge, large pledge, yes. My unboxing I did, the video will be out. It's on Patreon right now, but it'll go out live Monday. But I got a comment. I posted some photos of my first game that I played this morning, and one of the comments I got from the owner of the company now, Chris's brother, Brian, let me find it. There was 400 orders that Bad Crow Games was trying to process by hand, one after another, after people paid their invoices to try and expedite all these shipments. They were able to get 100 out of the 400 to get this to meet on deadline. So unfortunately, 100 people here in the U.S. that have paid their orders are going to have to get reimbursements and have their orders put on hold.
Yeah.
But Bad Crow Games worked their butts off trying to solve this for us U.S. backers. And I'm so thankful for what they've tried to do for us, because or else we'd be waiting for months. Who knows?
And it's something that they didn't have to do too, right?
Exactly.
So I'll jump in here to kind of address what they were doing there too. I worked a few years as a logistics manager, essentially shipping packages, and to take a package, have it ready to go, and then have to go through and redo everything, that's anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes per order to make a change. So to essentially change it from going on a container on a ship and floating to loading it on a plane and dropping it off in 12 hours, that is a lot of paperwork to get done in a very short amount of time. And the fact that they got over 100 done is quite amazing. The other thing too, Socks, there's this thing called the alphabet that our society runs off of, and you're pretty high up on the alphabet as far as processing.
That would have helped.
I'm wondering if that was part. Well, I don't know, because
it'd be ordered. It'd be payment time, right? In theory, they have to have done it in the order that they received the funds on.
So I got an email also saying that as soon as I reached out to them, saying that I was interested, they were already creating my shipment boxes. They're already getting my order ready, even though I hadn't even paid the invoice yet because I didn't know what the invoice was going to be. But they already started working on getting stuff, my order separated. So I don't know if it was based off of how soon I emailed them, because I emailed them like within a couple hours of getting the original email saying, "Hey, we're giving you this option." So I don't know if it was based off of me replying as fast as I did, and they're just working on it. And because I replied as fast as I did, and then paid my invoice as fast as I did.
Yeah.
That it then was getting on the first plane out of Hong Kong within a couple of days of my order being processed. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of factors that could have gone into it. You're absolutely right. And I don't have the full background.
It's probably worth also... Yep.
No, go ahead, Bruce. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, it's probably worth... Like, because there's some people out there that's going to be like, well, if 400 people had to pay for it, they should do 400 people. But this has been done very last minute because they had pretty much no time to organise this. They've done this off their own back. There's no time to hire more people to get this done faster.
Yeah.
Because that takes time that they can use to post things out.
Quite literally a cutoff. So, like, if that's all that got done and then that cutoff happened, doesn't matter. Like, they cannot now.
Yeah, because they could send out all 400 and, hey, look, if this is too late, then we're sorry, we tried our best. I mean, you couldn't... I mean, people would be unhappy, but you couldn't really blame them for that. But they are entirely avoiding that issue and refunding the money, again, which... refunding money costs money, because you've got to pay somebody to process that. This is something that should be applauded.
Yeah, so after I got the initial one, like I said, on the 15th, they sent out another update, which is the one that I shared in our chat, that huge long text of stuff.
Yeah.
In that update that they provided us, if they would have sent all 400 or so of these U.S. orders just via ship, it would have cost them $900,000 in additional costs just for them, which would have bankrupted them as a company.
Yeah.
To try and fulfill. Yeah. And I actually looked at the flight schedule. So my package flew through DHL. They use DHL as the carrier for this. And looking at the flight schedule, DHL, I don't know if DHL only flies to Cincinnati here in the States or if there's other hubs, but the flight that mine was on only flies from Hong Kong to Cincinnati every 2 to 3 days. And so they had that window of, because the plane goes from China to US to Europe to China and goes around the world that way. And so by the time it gets back around the world, back to Hong Kong, 2 or 3 days have passed.
Yeah.
Based off of scheduling and whatnot for crews, loading the plane. And so, but I'm sure that there may be other planes, but that's the one that I looked at because that was the one that I was able to find via tracking on how mine was getting here to the US.
So that screams of somebody that's done a lot of research to make sure that they knew how it's going to work as well.
Yeah, it's probably Cincinnati just because of how the globe is shaped and the fact that it's a sphere, and the distance going from Hong Kong to Cincinnati is probably faster and more centralized for distribution out than, say, going to LA.
Well, not just that, but you think about it. FedEx is all based out of Memphis, Tennessee. UPS is all out of
Louisville, Kentucky.
So you're absolutely right. All three of our major cargo processing for those three carriers are all right there along that central eastern time zone boundary. So you're absolutely right. Whether you're coming from Europe or you're coming from China, Asia markets, those all line up for the perfect spot for here in the U.S. to distribute out to the rest of the U.S.
Trim, glue, prime, paint.
Con socks, you know you want to talk about it.
Well, besides the 4 pictures that I have up on my the wall, that was some of my hobby that I do, because I was like, I got to clean up my office a little bit, but I'll pan the camera over because I'm in the middle of a game right now. But if you look on my table, yep, there it is gloriously on the table all set up back there. So absolutely love it. This is my second game that I'm playing right now with my boys. They're enjoying it a lot. So, like I said, I'll have the unboxing video later on this week out on for the public. But then I'm trying to get some other photos of the game while I'm playing for the Facebook group as well. So that's what I've been up to. besides trying to finish up school this last 2 weeks.
Yeah. What about yourself, George?
I have looked at my hobby bench a few times while I've been studying for a Microsoft certification.
Oh, that's not fun.
Yeah, fun.
Beyond that, and as we hinted at the beginning of the episode, my 9-year-old cat, I had to take him into the vet to have he's had it for a couple years, but it just got really big over the last couple months, and he was about 3/4 of an inch tumor that was removed off of his left shoulder.
I mean, surely you could sculpt that into something for a miniature.
I had it sent off to the lab to find out, because they stuck a needle in to pull out cells. So is this an abscess? Is what this is? And they're like, yeah, this is some weird stuff. Let's send it off to the lab. So, but he's doing great. He's very upset about having to live inside again and be confined while he recovers. So, you guys got to see me shove a pill down his neck, and he didn't even or throat, and he didn't even react to that. So, well, he didn't react is the thing too. He's just like whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just kind of used to it at this point, I suppose. So I'm guessing that leaves me, right?
That leaves you with.
Okay, that's fine. We can.
We're gonna ignore Bruce. Okay, so let's go to game talk.
What you got, Bruce?
Okay, so I've been on a bit of a... Well, actually, no. Let's start with the thing that I was teasing for the last few episodes. Because...
Glorious Dollar.
No.
He breaks it.
No, I didn't break it. It's okay. So, this was my entry into the painting competition for Drop Squad Commander, Strike Team Commander. For the record, I didn't win. I wasn't really expecting to be fair. But, so what I was trying to do was replicate a paint scheme originally done by a friend, Alan Bullard. Laser Touch? No, what's the business called?
Laser Forge.
Laser Forge, thank you. And he had done a theme called Living Metal, which was not overly difficult, but it did have quite a few steps in it. And I no longer owned any of the paints that he did. And I kind of like, you know what? I'm going to try and replicate that, but I'm going to kind of try to recreate it. So I've actually done about 80% of this is speed paint. And I don't think most people would have realised that if I hadn't have said anything. Because it's not overly obvious. So that's actually a very flat purple and a very flat green that I've then coated with a satin varnish to make it look more metallic than it really is. Where the original one was kind of like a silver, and then it's coated in like a dark smoke. Then it's covered over with like a purple tint, and then a blue tint, and then a green tint. I chose to skip the blue. And then that's covered over by like a dark smoke paint, and then it's varnished, and there's a Nuln oil that's added, and like it's just very complicated. And I just decided, hey, I'm going to see how close I can get, and just completely do it wrong. Yep.
For everything that Contrast was supposed to be, as far as making it faster, making it look good, and all that stuff, like. There's been a lot of people coming up with techniques of like, hey, if you do this, you can make it look even better, and it adds 6 steps, so it's just as difficult as like doing your low, mid, and highlights and blending and all this other stuff. The stuff that people are coming up with, it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I was really happy with how this turned out. The other downside of things for me is that my last couple of weeks were actually quite insanely busy. I was away for a huge part of it camping. I also had my grandmother's funeral at some point during the competition. So this is not finished. It's certainly... I'm very proud of how this turned out.
I think it looks pretty good.
It looks good.
I've not really gone overboard with any of the metallics. I've not slipped up with any of the metallics, sorry.
Also, Bruce, I also just saw this comment when you were camping, and I said, you should come out here because, there's lots of great camping. You said bear, you don't know about camping in bear country. You can camp here without being in bear country and not have a cell phone reception. Like that, you can have all of that. You don't have to camp with bears here.
Okay, fair enough. The other thing that I've been doing a lot of lately is I'm back on a Moonstone kick, because Moonstone is awesome. So a couple of episodes back, I kind of talked about how I'd finally painted all of my fairies. And then I was like, okay, I want to keep going. So I pulled out the goblins that I bought in the most recent Kickstarter. And I went through, I started building them, I washed them, I built them. And I started building... Oh, I've lost it. I started building Eric the Exalted, who's... Oh, there he is. Who has walked away. And I received this stuff like 5 or 6 months ago. And when I opened it up and started building it, I found I'm actually missing one of the sprues here. So I had to reach out and like, I hate to do this because I know it's been a while, but I've just opened this up and it's missed pieces. Tom was wonderful. He got back to me like way faster than I was expecting him to. Like it was only a matter of a couple of hours. Like I went to sleep after I sent the message and I had heard back before I woke back up again. It's like, no problem, give me your address. And I pointed out, like, I'm in Australia, I know this is going to cost a bit. I want to do an order anyway, because there's other stuff from the goblins that I don't own and I wanted to buy and I can't get them the things I wanted I couldn't get locally. He's like, yeah, sure, just when you make the order, let me know what the order number is and I'll throw it in there. And he gave me free shipping on it, which saved me £40. That's...
Wow.
Yeah.
Good chunk of change to save.
Yeah. Like, he didn't have to do that. Because I had turned around and said, look, hey, let me do an order, throw it in with that, so that you don't have to pay for shipping on it. I was trying to do him a favour. Because I was going to have to pay for shipping anyway. So just throw it in that box. But I've been painting up...
In the scheme of things, you were being nice saying, wait, don't pay for shipping on that. I'm going to place this order, so just throw it in there and we can roll in that shipping. And he was probably thought, well, you're still buying stuff and you're really nice. I'm just not going to charge you for shipping this time. Like, that's... I mean, for you to, like, say, don't rush this, I'm going to do this. Like, I got some stuff for Cthulhu Death May Die. It was dashboard holders. Dude forgot some parts. I was like, hey, you forgot these. And he's like, oh, I'll send those right out. I'm like... I'm going to order this, so just stuff them in that box. And he gave me free shipping, too. So,
yeah.
Because...
Goblin Airship. None of these are finished, just for the record. Like, most of these skins... Like, this is all speed paint, so yes, it still looks rough in places. But I love this miniature. It's so dumb. I wish my camera
Even with better. You saying that it's not finished with the whimsical feel of that mini... That looks freaking fantastic, dude.
I'm really happy with it.
It does look nice.
I believe the word is chuffed.
Yep, that would be appropriate. I also have Mr. Growbottom, which is like a goblin fairy. Focus. There we go. Who I kind of... Like, none of these are perfect to the actual original artwork, but I kind of I try to get close-ish. I've gone for more of a green than... Because the original artwork, like, their skin tones kind of vary a little bit, but it's more browny. This is the Mortician, who... Like, the bird itself kind of just sits on the base like I have done, but you're meant to put it the other way so that the bird's behind them. And I was like, you know what? I want it to be in front. I have seen other people do it when they just sit the bird on the hat and stuff. You probably can't see it on camera, but the little crow actually has a hat that looks similar. Yeah, it just looks like it's part of the beak, really. You can't really see it. Focus. No. So I've gone through, I've painted 10 miniatures in the last couple of weeks. All of this. Quite like this guy. This is the tax collector. I think I'm going to stop trying to show these off because they just don't show off properly. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. The only one I haven't finished at this stage is Boom McBoom, which is just a big crazy old goblin with a big gun. So I've painted the gun. and I've painted his skin. I haven't done his clothes yet. But I've actually got... That's probably the most I've gotten done in quite a while. I also bought more Moonstone. I have 3 boxes down here that I haven't opened yet. One is Goblin City, which is 3 of the miniatures from the 2-player starter set. Because I don't want to buy the 2-player starter set. I don't want the humans. I just want to complete my Goblin stuff.
Yeah.
So I bought that. As part of my Moonstone order, I've also ordered the miniature that's supposed to be exclusive to the 2-player starter set, because that way I can complete the collection. I also ordered the new fairies. I think it was on an episode you weren't with us, George. There's new fairies where one of them's like a giant tooth fairy trying to yank out a giant tooth out of the ground. The store that I ordered these from locally didn't have that available, so I've ordered that directly from Tom as well. And I have also ordered the last of the fairies that I don't own, which is something that comes with the Lashvault, which is another army that I don't want. So, well, it's not that I can't afford to have all of the armies. So, I have a low budget.
I will tell you this: I don't fault you for not wanting to buy the humans or do anything with the humans, because you're human. What do you want? Why do you want miniatures about you? You know, you're playing a fantasy game to do things that aren't human.
Yeah, fair. The miniatures are all gorgeous, but I have to draw a line somewhere. I can't afford to own everything. I already own more miniatures than I'm ever going to play with. I really shouldn't be buying more stuff. What was that? On that note,
we're all on that boat. We all have more miniatures than we can play with.
I also bought a giant because, well, I wanted a giant, and I was kind of looking at them, and I'm like, well, actually, it's a troll, not a giant. So Noel is kind of like a healer type character from what I can tell. Obviously, I haven't painted him yet. I'm just dropping all of my paints everywhere. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I probably will eventually buy more of them, but I just wanted to complete the forces that I have for now. And that's me.
Talk nerdy to me.
So it's another one of these general conversations, this one. Make my lights look better again. The subject that I put on the thing is like aspects of the hobby that you're not a big fan of. So my theory behind this, like, because everybody has things about the hobby that they don't like. For some people, it's paint. For a lot of people, it's painting. For a friend of mine, Alan, his was always the building. Like, he hated building miniatures. Some people only like that side of it, and they don't like playing the games, because, you know, some people just aren't games people. I just thought it'd be interesting to have a bit of a conversation about it.
No, I like building the stuff.
Yep.
I like painting the stuff. I like playing the games.
Mm-hmm. So George is easy to please.
Part. No. There's actually one part about the hobby that I struggle with and have problems with. Mm-hmm. And that is learning the rules.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So, between my undiagnosed autism and, you know, growing up the way I did, I have such a hard time focusing, reading, and comprehending the rules.
Yep, I can relate to that.
I do so much better if, you know, someone knows how to play, and we just play a game, and the game is explained to me as it's played. I do so much better than sitting down in front of a frickin' book and reading it. I don't know if there's any way that, you know, people could maybe do a better job of making rules clearer or more easier to understand. But that is
a separate problem. But yes, there's definitely a problem there as well.
Like Massive Darkness 2, like there's so much about it. Like I get, like, you know, how the game's supposed to be played, but like when I sit down and read the rules on, I do this, then do this, then do this. Like I just, what are my hardest things about learning a new board game? Okay, how do I start playing the game? Like it's turn one, the first thing. How do I do that? How do I start that?
Yeah.
I can do the setup, but I just, when it comes to like actually engaging in the beginning of the game, I can't do it. Like I don't know where, you know, I'm very linear that way.
Yeah. I find, and this this is not a revelation to me as and it's an adult, because it was always kind of the same, and I'll touch on how I learned this younger in a minute. But I'm the same, because but I'm not undiagnosed autism. I'm undiagnosed ADHD. And it's I don't feel the need to officially be diagnosed, personally. I know that it's there, and I know where the issues are, and I just try to work around what I've learnt to work around by myself. I'm not saying you shouldn't get diagnosed. Like, if you feel like it's causing problems, do that, obviously. Different conversation.
As far as I've gotten in life now, like, I'm not going to waste the time and effort. Like,
I know people that have, and they're very happy that they did. But I've always struggled with that. Like, if I was doing a theatre show, I always struggled learning my lines from reading them. I had to do them to learn them. Like, I could read through them, even out loud, all day. It wasn't until I was doing the blocking where things would actually set in. Blocking is where, like, you're mocking up the scene and actually learning, like, where you are, what you're supposed to be doing at this time. I did quite a lot of theatre. It's not something that we really talk about because it's not relevant. But so I already kind of knew this about myself. There are certain game companies that are really good at how they write rules. A lot of them really aren't. The fact that we have, like, Esoteric Order of Gamers is one of the, like, he's from New Zealand. He's a decently, I mean, he's certainly not Guerrilla Miniature Games big, but he's big enough. And, like, his entire thing is rewriting and standardizing rules so that they're easier to read. Like, and he, like, has a Patreon and everything for it. Like, that business wouldn't make any sense if people were just good at writing rules.
Yeah.
Mythic, one of their weaknesses was always the way they wrote their rules. Like, Super Fantasy Brawl was really hard to read, for example.
Yeah, I struggled greatly with that one, too.
The game itself was great, but it just, like, you really kind of had to sit down and work out how it worked. So, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I find it easier personally watching a video about how the game is played, because you can almost find it for anything that you want to play. Not always, but, like, there's almost a let's play on everything. Or this is how, because most people have paid somebody as a sponsorship thing, or somebody has picked it up for a channel and, hey, we're going to focus on this for a few weeks. There's usually stuff like that you can usually find. In the case of, because I actually played a game of Night Shift on Friday night. That was possibly the easiest game to teach people I've ever come across. Nothing about it's really overly complicated. It all kind of, like, you can kind of look at the components and go, yep, I can see how this works. You don't even really need to have it explained. Like the one where, like, there's cards that you flip and there's different symbols. The only thing you need to know is, are you trying to match things or avoid them being matched? And in this case, it's if you get 3 of the same symbol, you bust. So, okay, so it's blackjack, but with different symbols. That's fine. Obviously, it's not 21, but...
Yeah.
And the other one is, like, there's little tokens that you're supposed to add on, and depending on how many you get, and if you accidentally roll your own, then you bust. If you roll one of the other ones that you've already got, then you've reached as far as that you can get, and that's the money that you get. And it just works really simply. I mean, it does explain them, but you could almost figure the game out just by looking at it.
I may have to have you shoot me a link to that guy, though, and see if he's done anything with MD2 or anything like that, because...
Yeah. The thing we've spoken a few times about, like, getting a group together and teaching people how to play a game. I find I get really nervous when I have to teach people something. It's that is definitely the thing that I struggle with personally. I also go through waves of burnout where I kind of struggle with motivation and stuff, and I think largely it's because I've just never really fully given myself a chance to take a proper break. But I just kind of, like, I'm in the mood to paint some models, I will paint some models. I'm not this person that'll sit down every night. Because I have a friend that's like, his rule is he must paint for at least 30 minutes every night. And I can't do that because I'm just like, I can't do that anymore. I used to be that person. I just can't anymore. I would like to get back to that at some point. But yeah, I think that's probably the big one for me. Like, generally speaking, I enjoy painting. Generally speaking, I like building models unless they're metal ones. I don't like painting and building metal models. I have a huge hatred for it.
I will not touch metal anymore.
I'll touch it.
Nope.
But I'm just not a fan of it.
Only if I have to.
Okay. I'll touch it to pick it up and drop it in my bin.
That's fair. I mean, there's stuff that I'm looking at the moment that I have options to buy it in either resin or metal, and at this stage, I'm tempted to buy the metal one. Just because it's a smaller company, and I don't know what the quality of their resin is like. I'm not going to say who it is out loud, because... Yeah. Socks, come on.
I'd be interested to hear your take on what your... Because let's be honest now, we've got 4 topics now. There's building, there's painting, there's playing, but then there's having to learn how to actually play the stupid game.
Socks is the perfect man, and he's going to say he has no weaknesses.
No, I do, actually. That station right over there. I bought it, and I haven't really used it.
That's not all your fault, though.
Why is it not my fault?
Because you've been busy with school.
Well, that's one of them.
I mean, yes, you could make the time, and you haven't, I suppose.
I've been busy. I had a horrible situation with my landlord, which you guys know about, too. So mental stress on that aspect was... But even before that, even before I came here, I enjoyed building, I enjoy playing, I enjoy teaching people how to play. That's why I became a war host, to teach demos and stuff like that. I enjoyed that aspect of the game. You guys know every 2 to 3 years, I pick up and I move.
Yep.
For the longest time, I didn't have anything like that where I could just have all my paints out easily accessible. They would always
always your excuse.
That was always my excuse. I had to keep them away from my young kids because I didn't want them to get into them.
Yep.
And so they were in a huge clear Tupperware up on the shelf. And then having to drag them out, even for an hour, clean up my brushes, clean up my station, and all of that. That was just so hard for me to be able to just sit down for even an hour a night during the week to do something. And so that's something that I still struggle with. Now that my kids are older and I don't have to worry about them getting into my paints, it's something that I need to teach myself to. We all have a list of stuff that's sitting ready to go on the paint shelf, and I haven't gotten around to it because of that mentality that I've had for the last 10 years of having young kids in the house.
Yeah.
Now I got to get over that and push myself beyond that. So.
Yeah. I mean, for people that, like, you will have aspects of the hobby that you don't... It may be that you don't enjoy. It may just be something that you struggle... Like George and I have talked on stuff that we actually struggle to do. Which isn't necessarily how... Well, I did write struggle, but I kind of thought that it might come up. But I was thinking most of this conversation would probably just be stuff we don't like. But struggling, like you could, like maybe building models is just something that you struggle to do because maybe you're awkward with your hands, or maybe you don't feel comfortable using a knife, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that, legitimately, you could do serious damage if you don't use them properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought it'd be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I printed flexible thumb guards for using it because I've developed the absolute worst habit of using an X-Acto. I cut straight towards my thumb, and my left thumb, after building, I built all those fire slayers, however many months ago, and I probably had like 30 cuts on my thumb.
Controversial opinion. Okay, so you don't cut towards yourself, right? Do you know why that rule exists? Yeah, you don't cut towards yourself because you're a child and you can't be trusted with a knife. Fine motor skills. Like, actually using a knife like that is more natural, but it's also more dangerous, which is why we get told not to do it. Realistically, like if you're getting rid of mold lines and stuff, you're actually almost better coming towards you, so long as you trust yourself to do that. And I'm not telling you to trust yourself to do that. You should know in your head whether you're someone that can be trusted doing that or not. Some people don't have those fine motor skills and will just slice themselves open. Hi, George.
I don't have that voice. I just do it. Like, I'm gonna slice my thumb open. Yep, there it is. I'm bleeding. I'm done.
Why did I do that for? Oh, I don't know. Let's try it again. Oh, damn. I mean, I've cut myself open more times than I care to count, but it is something that happens.
Yeah.
I'm not telling people to do stupid things.
The print is amazing.
The other thing, like in regards to knives, is something that George and Socks has probably come across this. Anybody that's worked with knives will know this. But a blunt knife is more dangerous than a sharp one. You should change your X-Acto blades regularly, because blunt ones will do more damage.
So yes and no. A blunt one is a lot nicer for scraping a mold line without over damaging your mini.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do cut yourself with it, it hurts forever to heal. But if you put that nice fresh blade on and it's so nice and sharp and you can't even see the edge because it's so sharp, and the first time you go, you drive it halfway into your thumb, and then a day later it's completely healed because it was so perfectly cut that everything's just like, oh, no, we'll just go back together. We just have to do this and we're fine.
For those that don't know, and I'm probably going to not say this exactly right, but the reason that a dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp one is because you have to put so much extra pressure on it. Now, that doesn't really apply to an X-Acto blade anyway. It certainly does for knives in the kitchen, which is generally where this rule tends to get quoted, or the military.
So there's two parts to that. Because you have to use more force, and then when you do cut yourself,
you've got more pressure behind
you're
it.
applying more force. But because it is duller, you're not cleanly slicing, you're tearing. And so the tear takes longer to heal than a slice. That's why, when you go in for surgery and they use that, $2,000, whatever they charge you for scalpel to slice you open, the reason why it heals back so nicely is because it was done so precisely that your cells can just knit back together versus, the dull X-Acto. If you were to look at it, it'd be a jagged tear like pinking shears. Who knows what pinking shears are? Right?
I'm guessing they're a pair of shears.
It's a pair of scissors that cut into zigzags so fabric doesn't fray. But when you have a duller knife, that's essentially what it's doing, is it's tearing it like pinking shears, and so you have all these points that you're trying to line up and heal instead of, two smooth edges.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully somebody's learned something.
I'm going to cut myself. I know I'm going to do it, but, the voice saying, don't do this. Yep. Nope. Cut myself, whatever.
Yeah.
How bad am I bleeding? Oh, I can work for a little bit more.
Before 2 or 3 come on.
Yeah. All right, George. Why don't you tell people about Valhalla Hobby, because they're awesome.
Valhalla Hobby is super awesome. They're located in Verona, Wisconsin. They are a sponsor of this, and for quite a while of all the episodes of Getting Tabled. They are a lovely brick and mortar that I wish I could go to, but they have everything. They have Bushido. They have all the stuff we talk about. They have the stuff that we don't talk about. I don't even, I'm sure there's something that they've got on the shelf that I've never heard of. I still have my shopping cart open of the Fox Army for Bushido. But they have Army Painter. They have all the good stuff. They have it usually below MSRP, and they have great shipping. It's driving me nuts now. Where is it? The Adar's Judgment. They still have it, and it's still in my shopping cart, and it's just wait for when I can buy it.
By the time you go to buy it, it's going to be sold out.
Well, no, he's got 3 on the shelf right now, so he's sold out a few times, and he keeps getting it back in stock. So
yeah, fair.
That's the other thing too, is if they do sell out, they do get it back in stock. I've been to some stores where it's like, If they sell out of it and they're like, well, that sat there for a few months, I'm not going to order more in. Nope. He would always get like 2. I'm just using this as an example because I always was watching it. He'd get 2 in, sell 1, sell the other one. He'd get 2 in. No, this last time he got 4 in. So,
which is nice.
And as we were talking about earlier, especially right now, we need to support our stores. And if you don't support the stores, you're not going to have the stores anymore. And with what he's already been doing for us is supporting us so that we can continue to do this. Supporting him will keep him in business so he can continue to support his community, support the games, and then support us. And it's the circle of the hobby. So, and again, if you use code TABLED, you get 5% off your first order over $100.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
All right. So we have ArcFest is coming up on the 3rd and 4th of May. That is next week. Sandown Racecourse. It's probably too late to register for it at this stage. It's probably, you can check their website, but I'd be very surprised if there were still points open. But if you want to go along, that's going to be at the Sandown Racecourse. Port Play is on the same weekend. This is a role-playing convention that's happening at the St Kilda Town Hall. We also had recently announced the Australian Model Expo. So this is just miniature models, generally speaking, not just gaming. It's just it's models as well. So like Airfix kits and that sort of stuff, for example. That is taking place at the Sandown Racecourse from the 7th until the 9th of June. Gen Con is coming up on the 31st of July till the 3rd of August at the Indiana Convention Centre in, surprisingly, Indiana. PAX Australia is from the 10th...
Indianapolis. You said Indiana in the Indiana Convention Centre. It's Indianapolis Convention Centre.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you for correcting me. PAX Australia is not happening in Indiana. It's happening at the 10th till the 12th of October at the Melbourne Convention and Entertainment Centre. And the one that is not listed, because I forgot to put it on, the Melbourne Gaming Show is taking place on the 29th of November at the Kensington Town Hall. It's mega145.com. Looks to be like a giant sales event, essentially. Open for traders and sponsors, so they've only just announced that this is happening. It's fairly early days. I'm sure that we'll get more information as it happens. Where can people find us, Socks?
So we got our Patreon at patreon.com/gettingtabled. $2 a month. Get you early access to our videos. You can also listen in to us while we record our podcast every 2 weeks. And you have all that access for us early. But once again, $2 a month. Website at gettingtabled.com. Our Facebook group is facebook.com/gettingtabled, where we are the most active in all the terms of social media. We have our YouTube at youtube.com/gettingtabled. And then if you want to ask us any questions or email anything, you can email us at gettingtabled@gmail.com. We have our Discord. Our Discord link is in the bottom in the description. And then you can find us at X/Twitter, Instagram, Blusky, Threads, and at Getting Tabled. And then Reddit is Getting Tabled. And then Bruce has his toy reel at youtube.com/toy reel. And then Entropy City, his baby that he's designing is entropycitygame.com.
Yeah, entropycitygame.com, not entropycity.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.
EHR ships still suck.
Thanks, George.